Bueno, estamos hoy con Pastor Michael Murphy. Él fue parte de Hillsong en sus inicios. Durante 12 años fue el pastor asistente. Luego, durante otros 12 años tuvo su propia iglesia. Y en este momento está haciendo lo que se llama coaching a otros pastores. Y es un honor tenerlo. It's nice to have you with us, Pastor Michael.
It's great to be here.
Tell us something about what you're doing right now.
Right now, we are working alongside senior pastors and movements, literally all over the world, just helping them to do what they do a little bit better. Fresh eyes, perspective of 30 years, but now, because we are working with many other multi-site, large congregations, yes, we are carrying if you like, a cross-pollination. We are carrying some information that we learned over here that we can help over here.
All right.
And we're loving it. I worked out the other day, I spend about 60 nights sleeping in my own bed.
Oh.
We're away all the rest of the time.
All the year.
All the year, 10 months of the year, yeah.
And why did you do that? Why did you were a pastor, why did you?
It's a great question. I'm glad I haven't had to ask that myself many times. So it's been great, right?
It's been good.
But things were going great. We just built a $10 million building. The church was thriving. But literally it was God who spoke to us, actually through a friend who, and I'm not big on directive prophecy, but he said, how are you? And I said, I feel vocationally schizophrenic. But I don't think I can take a pill for it. In other words, I love what I'm doing, but I've got this heart to help pastors, particularly in the developing world. And he said, you know why, don't you? And I said, well, it sounds like you're going to tell me. And he said, because you're done. You're done as a senior pastor, and it's about time you did what God's put in your heart. And I burst into tears. And this thing erupted that I think I was pushing down. And so we just knew very clearly this was a God thing.
All right. Tell us about how you got to know the Lord. You were a man of a lot of relationships. You were a man that liked alcohol.
Yeah, I did. I was. My life was a bit of a mess. If you met me, I was in business, yes, and I suited up okay, and I could shake your hand and smile with the best of. But on the inside, I was lost. And when I was 14, I was sexually abused by a man, and that caused me to really try and prove my manhood in my teen years, and hurt a lot of people in the process. And I regret that, but obviously that was where I was at that time. It landed with a teenage pregnancy. So by the time I was 18, I had a child, but I never saw that child. And so it was. So I was really confused, and just really went on a partying binge for probably 3 or 4 years, and I had a near fatal car accident. I flipped a V-dub, you know, a VW,
okay, yes,
and it flattened it. It ended up the shape, but not the value of a Maserati. It was just, it was just. And when I realized, I got out with just a scratch on my back. I thought, I don't know God. And so I went along to what was Christian Life Center in the city at that time, that's now Hillsong City.
Yes.
Brian Houston was speaking one of his very first messages at his dad's church. I heard the gospel for the very first time, and I responded. And the thing I feel most in my life is gratitude.
And you met your wife at church?
We did, yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, she came from also a broken background.
Okay.
She was married as a younger girl, and her husband walked out with someone else after 2 years. So she also was very confused. She was a flight attendant at the time with Qantas Airlines, and we met at church. And I thought, oh, there is a God, and we got married. And I say this to people: we should be statistics.
Okay.
But God's grace has meant that we've now got 33 years of great marriage. I mean, you have your moments. Anyone that's been married for longer than, 2 years? But we just madly in love, and all 3 of our kids are making a difference in the marketplace for Jesus, and we're really, really thrilled about that.
Tell us about your calling. How did God call you to the ministry?
When I was 9 years of age, in a Catholic context, before all of this other stuff happened, there was a priest Normally in a Catholic parish, they had the older priest and the younger priest. The younger priest would typically come around and talk to the young, 10 or 11-year-old guys and say, hey, why don't you consider becoming a priest?
Okay.
And we were out in the playground afterwards, and a lot of the kids were going, can you imagine that? You have to wear a dress and all. And I was going along with the joke. But in my little heart, I thought, hang on a minute, if God is real, I can't think of anything I'd want to do but serve him.
Wow.
Now, by the time I was like 14, I realized that God had put another gender on planet Earth.
Yes.
And that to be a priest meant that I couldn't have a relationship. So I quickly ditched the calling and started to make some friends, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it was when I was born again, when I received Jesus in that church. And I looked around, and initially it was like, where's the stained glass windows? Where's the statues? Where's the candles? But I said, I can't deny these people have got something that I haven't got. And the very next day, I felt the little voice of the Holy Spirit on the inside, not audibly, but a sense of knowing. And it was like this. It says, see, you can answer my call and have a family like you've desired to have. And so that's how
you started ministry.
I remember Pastor Brian Houston. I was in the front seat of his car one day, and I was suited up. I was in marketing, and he said, Michael, he turned the car off, which is unusual. We'll come back from a prayer meeting or something. He said, Michael, I want you to know, if things keep growing like they were, we hit on a youth revival. We can't manage that. You can't make that happen. It was a God thing. Our street kids were getting saved left, right, and centre. And he said, you're the kind of person I'd like to have on my staff one day. He said, I'm not putting a carrot because it may never happen, and I wanted to be very discreet and sort of, thank you, Pastor Brian, yes. And again, it seems like I'm crying all the time. This volcano came out of me, and I ended up sobbing as I realized how much that call actually meant very deep down in my heart.
You said your children are serving the Lord. What's the secret so that our children will love God and then serve him?
With our background, it is the grace of God. But I think we did a couple of things right. I get asked that question a fair bit. We had a lot of fun. Like we weren't down on the kids. We were always looking for excuses to say yes, not no all the time. There's a lot of love and laughter going around our family. And I hope this doesn't cause anyone to stumble. We weren't really big on formal Bible studies as a family. I tried it, but everything in life was an object lesson. And so I think we had a lot of fun. My wife and I love each other, and we wouldn't be a day that went by that we didn't tell our kids that we loved them. Lots of hugs, and we had great holidays. We made memories. I think that was something as well. And then finally, and I can only say a big thank you to God. It's so important where your kids are in terms of youth group and kids ministry. And though we helped plant Hillsong in the early days, it quickly grew, and they always knew what it was to have a great bunch of young people, not necessarily thousands, but there were, like 50 or 60 kids within the span of, 3 or 4 or 5 years of their genre for them to connect with. And I think that's so important. The old adage is it takes a village to raise a child. I reckon it takes a church to raise a kid.
Well, Michael, thanks for blessing us, for blessing Colombia. Please say hello to everybody in Australia.
It's an honour to be here.
All right.
Doing a great job. Thank you.